14 drivers enter an uphill battle, with all eyeing the one opportunity at a championship down the line, with the quest to make it there starting right here. Live from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway in virtual Concord, North Carolina, we welcome you to the first race of the playoffs for Season 2 of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series and the World 120. Always so happy to have you back with us on the KBueno Racing Network for playoff racing for the first time this season. We're up atop the broadcast booth here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. My name is Kenneth Bueno, and after many of the trials, many of the tribulations, many of the challenges, we are finally here with an opportunity to decide which driver will go for the championship, at least in terms of who will make it there, will advance into the point standings and all that stretch going to Homestead of Miami Speedway in mid-March. We ended with 14 drivers at the end of last week's race at Myrtle Beach, the regular season finale, and now it's all between those guys to see exactly what they might be able to do, what they can do here from Charlotte, how they're going to set themselves up for what might be a run to a title this season, looking to all dethrone the driver of the number 02 in Josh Patterson. Let's take a look at your point standings. This is where the playoffs stand after the 10 races of the regular season, and now coming into Charlotte Motor Speedway. Gino Mero with the points lead. He's had it for the past couple of weeks. He remains at the top of the playoff leaderboard. Garrett White and Josh Patterson second and third. Garrett White the winner last week at Myrtle Beach. We'll cover that in just a little bit. Austin Doran has surged to fourth in the playoff standings, then followed by John Canizaro. Sky McGurk, the rookie who we said missed out on the playoffs last week. Hayes Booth forfeited his playoff spot, so Sky McGurk moves that one spot forward. He's going to be fighting for a championship as a rookie driver. James Bomar, Joe Berge, and Brayson Collins going to be the 9 drivers that are into the next round. We're going to whittle it down to 9 after these first 3 races, Charlotte, Bristol, and then the cutoff race at the Pocono Raceway. And then the final drivers below the grid: Ryan Martin, Clayton Ramstead, Caden Ripe, Timmy Spatz, and Dimitri Mundros. Dimitri Mundros was hit with a 10-point penalty after over-aggressive driving last week at Myrtle Beach. The officials gave him that call, so Mundros at the very tail end of the playoff grid. He was going to be second going into tonight's race had he had not suffered with that penalty. He's only 3 points out, and that's a good thing about this first playoff race. Everybody's remotely on an even playing surface, so really, in that case, you don't have a lot of points to overcome if you're a guy like Dimitri Mundros. It's only 3. Last thing you want to do, though, is put yourself in a worse position in a 3-race round. Let's take a look at Charlotte Motor Speedway before we get started with our KBRN track map. Our images, of course, provided to us by Google Earth. This is the first time we visit Charlotte Motor Speedway in the sim this season. We visited the dirt track not too far away in Concord, North Carolina. 1.5 miles, 2.4 kilometers. Opened all the way back in 1960. You'll find 24 degrees of banking in the turns, 5 degrees on the straightaways. It's a very narrow track. It's a very confined 1.5 mile oval in comparison to the others that we've seen on the calendar thus far, and it's going to provide for a great show. Provided for one last time we were here, where Garrett White in the number 26 ended up as the victor in all of that. So drivers are on the starting grid, and that means it's our time to take a look at where every single driver, where every playoff driver, and where your favorite driver will be lining up here tonight in the World 120 from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Garrett White, fresh off of the victory 1 week ago at Myrtle Beach. He lines up the fastest time in qualifying. The playoff driver lines up a 30.419. He'll be the first to see the green flag. Dimitri Mundros, the driver who we talked about, got that 10-point penalty at the very bottom of the playoff standings going into tonight. Good starting spot. He's on the outside of row number 1. Pair of playoff drivers right behind those two: Sky McGurk in the 82, the rookie standout driver, and Gino Mero in the 71-year points leader going into tonight's race. He is in P4. Chase Marsden with a formidable qualifying effort. He'll start inside the top 5, and there's your defending champion alongside him in his Toyota Supra, Josh Patterson in the 02, starting in P6. Connor Trafari in the 69, he made a show-out effort at Atlanta a couple of weeks back. He starts 7th from this 1.5 mile venue, and Logan Suyi, the driver who we also saw run up front at Atlanta Motor Speedway. We'll see what he can do as he rolls off in P8. Final 2 drivers inside your top 10 include playoff driver Austin Doran and the 10 of Ryan Zabot. Caden Wright from the 97 rolls off in P11. Ryan Martin to follow alongside him in P12. That is row number 6. James Bomar in the 44 is inside your top 13 playoff driver. And Tristan Rivers, I believe, making his first start in this season here at Charlotte. He's from P14 when we get the green. Clayton Ramstead in the 21, also a playoff driver below the cut line going into tonight. He has Timmy Spatz alongside him in P16, row number 8. Brady Cox and Paul Granada will start 17th and 18th out on the racetrack this evening. Hayes Booth and Kyle Churchsack in the 8-9-3 will start inside your top 20. TJ Lair in the 85, the 021, Brandon Stewart, 21st and 22nd in row number 11. They're the last two drivers to take time in qualifying. 23rd is eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver Parker White in the A74. Joe Berge, playoff driver, rolling deep in the field, 24th to begin. Jay Mulder, 25th. Brady Weileman, his first start, he's 26th. Seth Warren, 27th. DJ Powell, 28th. Playoff driver John Canizaro, 29th. Brayson Collins to round out your top 30. Final 3 drivers in our grid from Charlotte Motor Speedway: Henry Clapper, Brandon Sampson, and Cameron McCone in the 980 machine. An absolutely packed field here from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Sun setting over on the side. Winds to the southwest at around 3 miles an hour. And air temp at around 74 degrees. It is rather warm here in Charlotte, North Carolina, but we are expecting the sun to go down over the horizon. We should have the lights flicker on by the time we get to our 80 lap completion mark. We do go 80 laps. We go 120 miles, 192 kilometers here from the home of NASCAR. So field in the hands of playoff driver Garrett White, driver who made the championship 1 season ago. The driver defending his win at this very track. Dimitri Mundros looking to resurge above the cut line in this race, in the first one for the playoffs. Field enters the restart zone. We are green and underway in the World 120 for the first playoff race of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. Car on the outside wall. That's the 89 of Chase Marsden. We stay green. Dimitri Mundros with a sluggish opening jump. He falls back to 4th. And rookie driver Sky McGurk settles into 2nd. Josh Patterson weaving his way into 3rd. Battle for 4th already underway. At a turn 2, Dimitri Mundros and Gino Merrill, the 2 Ford Mustangs, back to turn 3. And Mundros way up the track. We'll talk about the discipline of running this Charlotte Motor Speedway at the bottom. You can get those left sides on the blue and white paint. That line on the very bottom of the racetrack. It looks like the 60 will miss it. He'll relinquish P4 for now. And your top 5 all occupied by orange banner playoff drivers. That's how you identify them over the course of these playoffs. You'll see them with the red banners on the top of the windshield, the orange splitter, and the orange splitter. I rather said red windshield banner. That is the orange windshield banner at the top. And all these drivers running for the championship. There's Sky McGurk on the outside. Looks like he's under fire from defending series title holder Josh Patterson. The bottom, and Patterson going to try to move for 2nd, but caution will come out. And it looks like a formidable crash. A big one out of turn 4. One car on its lid. And playoff driver Brayson Collins in trouble. I think Seth Warren was on his roof. You see the damage on the front end of the Supra. TJ Lair also caught up in the mix. I believe we might have seen Logan Suyi in the 19. There's some rear end damage on his car. And the caution out for the first time before we even get to lap number 5. We'll see exactly how this all started. And for Brayson Collins, you have to feel, and a throwback here, this is a multi-generation family of racers. Parker White in it, and then bam! Huge hit for the 5 of Collins, and it all starts right in front of him. The Hayes Booth got turned in the front of the field out of turn 4. We'll see exactly how that might have happened as he got turned. And this is a lot of the field around the mid-pack. And Booth already damaged on the front end. Looks like probably picked it up with Logan Suyi. That initial contact happening before this caution. And Suyi getting into him. Booth travels up the track. nowhere to go for the 85 of TJ Lair. And then a big slam. That's a 31 car down low. And then Seth Warren going up on his lid. Brayson Collins making some more contact. Parker White making an early spin. It looks like he's already taken it behind the wall. His race is over. And so we have a good chunk of the field. You look at 19th on back, starting with Chase Marsden in the 89. All of them coming down for pit road service this time by. I was about to mention Parker White in his car, which he usually reps the 95, but running the 874. He has yet to make a start other than tonight in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. He is a eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series driver for Kanan Esports. Actually finished third in the Clash not too long ago, a couple of days ago actually, on Tuesday. So we wish our congratulations to Parker White. I know I've seen his progression from young sim racer in the Bungeon Lawn Care Series up to Coke Series talent, so we wish the best for Parker White, of course. It looks like he is out of this race, unfortunately. I believe we have our second DNF before we even get to lap number 5, and that is the 988 of Brady Weileman. So caution out for the first time here from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Garrett White manning the field up in the front, and it was a very exciting weekend for Garrett White as he was holding on to his win from last week. A very chaotic Myrtle Beach race in Myrtle Beach 150. Here was the green flag. That was rookie Sky McGuirk with the pole. Josh Patterson on the outside. And what a race this would turn out to be, and a lot of chaos. This is Dimitri Mujos getting turned by Connor Hervillo, one of the playoff hopefuls from last week. And Mujos, that would be the first of many instances. Then McGuirk in the race lead goes around. He gets sandwiched between Patterson and Hayes Booth. He goes around for a spin. Many harmless spins in tonight's race, or in that race rather, but a lot of contact. Josh Patterson, lap 45, leading the race in the field, coming down a couple of laps later for pit road service. Patterson leading them off, and that 0-2 of Patterson, one of the most dominant forces all night long, as he was able to win that race off pit road, trying to make his way back to the field. It didn't come without its challenges, though. Hayes Booth overdriving turn 1. We saw a lot of those mistakes in that race. The drivers just getting loose and kicking up the tires off the ground. There's another look, aerial shot at Booth going into the outside wall, catching Patterson. Then later in the race, Patterson would find his way to the front. Had some alternate strategy. Guys like Austin Duran at the very front of the field, leading some laps. It looked like he might have been the favorite to win late. And then comes another stretch of pit stops under yellow near the end of the race in the final 7. Garrett White would stay out on old tires, and that will be the call to get him the race win. Ended up in green-white checkered territory. Wasted all of them. Here's a look at one of the restarts. I got the 26 out front. Hayes Booth somehow finished third in that race car, by the way. Front clip and rear clip completely torn off the Ford Mustang. Patterson did all that he could to catch up to the 26, and then came the final caution to bring us to rest. The 34 of Henry Clapper getting turned in the first corner as he was on the outside 3 wide as they sandwiched and moved up the track. That was Cameron McCone, Brayson Collins, and it was official. Garrett White, the race winner at the end of all of that. His first win in a while, and his first short track win since, I believe, Bristol or Iowa of last season. Garrett White, one of those drivers that is trying to get back to the championship 4, but complete this season with a championship. Made it all the way to the final round at Homestead of Miami in last season's edition of this series. Unfortunately, ended up just short. Some bad luck struck him late. Got into contact with TJ Lair, a lapped car on the back straightaway near the end of the race. And he's looking to turn that luck around. He is, of course, former winner here in Charlotte. That is what got him into the championship 4 last time we were here. And he's going to be on the outside of row number 1 by the time we get back to Green Flag Racing. Sky McGuirk on the inside of the first row. Josh Patterson, Gino Mero, pair of playoff drivers, 3rd and 4th. Dimitri Mujos lining up the top 5. So 1st through 5th, all of them running for a championship. Next playoff driver in line will be 7th place, Austin Duran in the 55. So quick yellow, we'll get a quick restart here, lap number 8 of 80. Still a very long way to go. And it is Garrett White, the number 26, at the helm of the field. Pace truck makes its way down to pit road into the Geico restart zone. They will head for the 26 early jump back under green in the World 120. race lead by a couple of car lengths. Battle for third, one car in the outside wall. That's James Bomar in the 44. He's one of the playoff drivers for our field. You see the orange banner on the top of the windshield. And the Jeff Gordon-inspired Corvette parts Chevrolet in trouble with a right side damage. He'll drop some spots. It looks like he will maintain clean, will stay green. And McGuirk trying to put some pressure on your race leader. A look on board from Garrett White in the number 26. His Chevrolet still up front. Battle inside the top 5. Connor Trafari looking to the top side of Dimitri Munoz. There's Austin Doran in the 55. And Ryan Zabot in the background of this. Clayton Ramstead, Caden White from 21 to 97. Also some playoff drivers in this field. It looks like they'll all maintain single file. Munoz able to hold off the pressure for now, but it's a long line of cars that goes back to roughly that 97 to Katie Reif, and you can also bring it all the way to Brady Cox in that 86. Some formidable distance between Cox and the 86, and then the next car on line, the 8 machine of Paul Granada. It looks for now that Munoz is able to keep his spot right now holding in P5. Here's a look on board with Connor Trafari, and it'll show you just how much discipline you have to have at this Charlotte Motor Speedway and what it's really like to drive. It is a very interesting 1.5 miler just because it feels a lot more confined, it feels a lot more compressed than other intermediate tracks on the schedule. We'll look at Homestead Miami Speedway. That feels a lot wider. Kansas, a track that we visited earlier in the campaign, also feeling a lot wider. You can point the same to Las Vegas and maybe even Atlanta Motor Speedway, despite that being a super speedway. And here at Charlotte, it feels like everything is much more narrower, even though it's the same length, the same distance, as Austin Duran finds a way underneath Connor Trafari. That's why he was holding the outside in 3 and 4. So the 55. And the winner from Long Beach earlier this season looking to the inside for P6. No changes up at the front of the field. Looks like everybody all mostly single file. There's Connor Trafari looking again on the outside. He'll try to get the very third lane work. He'll tap the outside wall. He'll scrub it just a bit. Will avoid significant damage, but 2 spots dropped at the exit of the final corner. Austin Doran, Ryan Zabot making their way through. And some crucial points here for Clayton Ramstead and Caden Reif, although Reif under fire here from Brady Cox in the number 86, and that Racing Nation TV black and pink Chevrolet on the inside. And you can see the number 97, a very interesting paint scheme. He's run a lot of Seattle Mariners cars, but this is a nod to the 80s Seattle Mariners. Tonight is our throwback race here from Charlotte Motor Speedway, so we'll talk about some of the throwback paints that are in this field, one of them being the driver of the 97, and paying tribute to guys like Ken Griffey Jr., Edgar Martinez, some of the stars of that Seattle Mariners team. It looks like right for now going to fall behind Brady Cox. He'll lose that last spot in the top 10. And here comes the 8 machine of Paul Granada. That's another throwback. I believe that's the Power of Pride throwback that Jimmy Johnson used to run back in the day. Used to run it around 2006, then ran it in 2011 at Richmond. And here comes Paul Granada to the inside. He'll work in underneath the 97. Reif won't give him too much resistance and will stay side by side for now. Reif will lose a couple of those spots. So a sea of orange at the front of the field led by Garrett White, but he has not been able to run away from second place or third or even fourth. Sky McGuirk, Josh Patterson, Gino Merrill all within the same range last time by when they crossed the stripe. 31.151 for White. 31.138 for McGuirk, 31.160 for Patterson, and a 31.132 by your playoff points leader coming into this race in Gino Merrill. So safe to say all 4 of these guys, a quartet of equality. Go back for turn 1, entire field single file, lap 16 underway, and Sky McGuirk looking to add on to the pressure to the 26. Right on board with the 82 of Sky McGuirk. Again, the pole sitter last week at Myrtle Beach just had a fantastic race leading up to that point. Had some strategy fall his way and then just came up short. And we put that story out that he was going to be those 3 points out of the playoff picture. But Hayes Booth, a very strong driver that did make the playoffs last week, forfeited his playoff spot. Unfortunately, is not able to make all of the playoff races in this season, so gave it away. Brayson Collins, league owner, decided to give it to the next driver in line. That is, of course, Sky McGuirk with those 3 points short. Had that luck turn around. I think some contact near the rear, or rather the mid portion of the field. That's Ryan Zabot in trouble. Left front damage, will stay green, and no caution lap 17. see what happened to Zabot. He was calmly running in the top 10. This is just in front of Connor Trafari. I was about to turn back to that battle in front of the 10 between the 60 of Mudros to 55 of Austin Duran. There's Trafari to the inside. A bit of contact, and it looks like Zabot loses the car. Trafari slams into the outside wall. And by the way, that's right in front of Clayton Ramstead, playoff driver in the 21. And that is big there for Ramstead to get around. Here's another look at it. There's some of the aftermath. Unfortunately, we stay green, and unfortunately for the 10, Zabot drops all the way back to P15 on the racetrack in a battle with Ryan Martin and Jay Mulder. Ryan Martin, also a driver in these WORC Dynamo Designs National Series playoffs. He is the one spot below the cut line coming into tonight's race, and Jay Mulder right behind the winner at Daytona in the number 51. Nice battle inside your top 18, led by DJ Powell. The number 356. Look at Logan Suyi on the back end, Brandon Stewart, James Bomar. Bomar, one of those drivers that smacked the outside wall on his 44 machine. Looks like he falls back further. This is a nice 4-car grouping going into turn 1. Looks like Suyi will try to advance here. He'll make this pass. 1 car to the outside wall. That is the 021. Stewart again slams a safer barrier. He's able to keep it straight. Will stay green. Bomar escapes the madness. And as of lap 20, multiple scares in this field. But somehow, some way, the pace truck stays in. So we'll stay green into our first fourth of the race. And it looks like finally Garrett White is able to add some elbow room. This guy McGurk, that last time by, set a lap almost a full 10 faster than the Ford Mustang behind him. But keep in mind, still there in contention, still occupying pace in that rear view mirror. And McGurk's going to hit the outside wall. He'll lose a couple of spots. Potentially if Josh Patterson can get by. And Patterson will look to the inside for P2 turn 1. He maintains door-to-door with the 82 that's going to reel in the 71, possibly Gino Merrill. And Dimitri Mundros, Austin Dorn on the backside of this as well. They could also have a safe for this before this is all said and done. Patterson sliding way up the track in the corner, almost got into Merrill there. Coming out of turn 2, luckily they keep it straight, no contact, and Patterson absolutely trapped on the bottom. And here at Charlotte, where keeping that right front cool is so very important with these NASCAR Xfinity Series cars that don't have a lot of downforce, and you can easily brush yourself up into the outside wall or completely tank slap it if you get it all wrong into a long run. And you really have to be careful going side by side because these drivers in the middle, they'll pinch the drivers down low, and you'll see this happen. McGurk slides up the track. He can't hold the bottom, and so he'll lose a lot of ground. He'll have to back out of the throttle, and so Merrill will take a 2-for-1, and he'll slide his second back to turn 3. A look on board with Mundros fighting the wheel out of turn 4. Again, the 10-point penalty assessed to him after Myrtle Beach for over-aggressive driving. Put him 3 points below the cut line, dead last in that grouping. And of course, that's not necessarily the biggest hurdle to overcome if you're Dimitri Mundros, a very consistent driver. He's picked up a couple of wins this season. One of them at a 1.5-mile track at Las Vegas to start the year. But still, any little bit of a hit, any little bit of a shunt is going to hurt you momentum-wise. It may hurt you mentally, may make you think about things a little more. Looks like Mundros still holding on to what he can, and just in this group of playoff drivers, he gets passed by Austin Doran. Doran going to give a push to Josh Patterson in turn 1. That might clear the Supra ahead of Sky McGurk, who's absolutely trapped on the outside of the first corner. So Doran in the 55, looking to the inside. Looks like he might have it for P3. And so all the while letting Garrett White run away in the 26, our longest green flag run of the night so far. Of course, nobody in the front pitted on that first caution just because it came out so early. We may end up in green flag pit stop territory. We saw this happen on Las Vegas. Max you could go was roughly 28 or 29 laps, maybe 30 if you saved enough. But we might see drivers come in for service, and how alternatively will that affect the drivers who did come in the last time by, and the only time really that we had an opportunity to come down pit road under yellow. There's Grayson Collins. That's going to hurt him dearly, a playoff driver going into tonight's race, and Collins sporting a very special number 5 this evening, and says it's a throwback to his great-grandfather's car from 1976. And his great-grandfather started what has now been many generations, 6 decades in fact, of racing in the Collins family. And so a lot of coolness behind this throwback scheme, but obviously Collins feeling the pressure right now with a rear clip severely torn off, and his car just trying to limp as far as he can. There's no fast repairs here in this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series, so all the damage you pick up in the race, you'll have to repair it down the pit road. Here's some more playoff drivers to worry about. Caden Rife and Clayton Ramstead, 9th and 10th on the racetrack, and they bring in Timmy Spatz, Joe Berge. Both of them going to go side by side as well. Joe Berge has been putting up a lot of consistent finishes throughout this year. He is P8 in the standings coming into tonight's race. The World 120 from Charlotte. Add an extra point here on Timmy Spatz. He's 13th coming into tonight's race. And it's 4 playoff drivers running 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th back to turn 3. So I believe that is Seth Warren in the 081, the car that went up and over. And the pit road entry at a turn 4 to bring us our first caution. He's going to swoop by. He is 28th, 14 laps down. And also to note, 23 cars remain on the lead lap. And the lead lap position, at least the last one held, is by 23rd place Brandon Stewart. First car lap down or more is Hayes Booth, but he is 7 laps down, so he's going to need a lot of cautions here inside 50 laps to go. So leaders still not looking for pit road. Austin Durant finding a beautiful exit out of turn 4. I believe this is a Kevin Harvick throwback on behalf of the 55, the car that Kevin Harvick ran in his debut Cup Series season in 2001, following the tragic death of Dale Earnhardt Sr. Running for Richard Childress Racing, got that famed win in Atlanta Motor Speedway. And a beautiful, simple hotspot Chevrolet for Austin Durant, who's looking to get his first ever WORC Dynamo Designs National Series Championship. And what a better way to gain some momentum by going underneath the defending series champion in the 02 of Patterson. So Patterson will relinquish that spot. Munoz on the back end of all of this inside your top 5. And all the while, Garrett White in the 26 has run away with it, and he has never looked back. 2.2 seconds and growing between the 26 and everybody else behind him. We should expect, if we stay green, the green flag pit stops might come into the equation, and then the question arises, who comes in first? Is it going to be the 26? Is it going to be everybody second on back? That's going to be a big question as Gino Merrill falls back to 3rd. Austin Durant makes his way by for 2nd, and here comes the first call. Playoff driver Josh Patterson in for pit road, lap 32. Looks like he might be the only driver to come in for service. Actually, yes, he may be the only driver out of the entire lead lap pack to come in. Here's Joe Berge in a nice 3-way battle. Remember, he was inside on number 54, Timmy Spatz. Underneath him for position, drops back, and now here comes Canadian Jay Mulder to the inside, the winner at Daytona to start off the campaign. The Supra looks down low. We'll watch and see if anybody else tries to pull the trigger and come in. Looks like next driver in is another orange bannered car. Sky McGurk struggling on this last run, and his right side completely torn up. And that 82 heading for the pit lane this time by. And it brings in a unique equation of trying to make that left, hopping on the brakes at the same time, and not missing pit road, because we see drivers do that all the time at these 1.5-mile tracks, Las Vegas being one of them. You can say Homestead and Miami Speedway, and a couple of others. But one thing that this Charlotte Motor Speedway has that's very different from the others in terms of pit road entry is that wall that graces you as soon as you go and make that left for the pit lane. If you overshoot by just the slightest amount, you may end up in the tire barriers. You may end up smacking that outside wall, which is used to protect the drivers going into the last chicane on the front stretch for the Charlotte Roval configuration. And so you can overshoot your pit lane entry, sure. Obviously, you'll get a pit road speeding penalty first and foremost, but you may just trash your car on the way there. And that may be the biggest concern for the drivers up in the front, or really anybody in the field if we stay green. Looks like next 2 drivers in the 97 of Caden Rife, his Seattle Mariners car, are going to get brought down pit road. Brady Cox going to join him. And so not seeing many groups of cars coming in. We're only seeing roughly 2 or 1 car come in at a time each and every lap. And we're still watching your race leaders put in lap after lap. Austin Doran has closed in, by the way, on the gap for the race lead. He is closer to 2 seconds flat. And, of course, waiting for that opportunity for drivers to come in. Looks like Gino Merrill might have just made the call. Indeed, he has. Your playoff points leader in for the first time tonight. He's joined by a couple of others. Timmy Spatz, Lane Ramstead might also look to be the other 2 in. 2 more playoff drivers. There's Spatz running a Oreo throwback. And this is actually an Xfinity Series car that Michael Annette drove a couple of years ago, but this is in throwback to, in commemoration of the car that Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Dale Earnhardt Jr. used to run. And those Oreo cars, very beautiful, I believe in the NASCAR Busch Series when they used to run back in the day in the late 90s, early 2000s. As we watch Garrett White, Austin Doran, and Dimitri Munjo stay out on the racetrack, they've gone roughly 38 laps on this thing. They're trying to make it all the way to halfway. This would be an interesting call if they can make it happen, because of course we've seen Garrett White not off the gas pedal. He's opened it up to 2.3 seconds, but question is, can you make it all the way to lap 40 or maybe 41? And then comes another challenge. Can you stretch that fuel tank all the way to the next half of the race and to the checkered flag? We're seeing a lot of drivers pit around lap 35, maybe 36. We've seen 30 to 35 rather as the market. It's going to be interesting to see what the drivers who can extend over 40 laps can do on their run of tires and of course on their set of fuel. And some drivers who have already come out of pit lane. It looks like Sky McGuirk picked up some front end damage. Not exactly sure how that happened, but McGuirk's night has gone from solid to start. It looks like pretty rough through here on out. We'll see exactly how he picked it up. This is into turn 3. This is against Logan Suyi in the 19. Look at the car, mostly repaired on that Ford Mustang. There's Brandon Sampson coming in, and Sampson just slid up the racetrack. McGuirk had nowhere to go, but a miscommunication. Sampson doesn't even end up coming down the pit lane. It was going way too fast, and McGuirk on the unlucky end of the stick. And that is so unfortunate as finally Brandon Sampson comes in for service. There's a look at the remnants of the rear end. And it looks like we've had another driver come in for pit road, and that is your race leader in Garrett White. The 26 going to come in. Austin Doran also going to follow suit. The 2 Chevrolet Camaros come out unscathed. And now it's all up to Dimitri Munjos at the front of the field, lap 41. So continuing to watch the strategy unfold at another 1.5-mile race that has brought us a lot of green flag action. As Dimitri Munjos continues to lead this race. Jay Mulder back in second. Joe Berge rounding out your top 3. We'll take a short break and remind you on the other side of what's to come for the rest of this series and this race in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. Don't go anywhere. We've got more of the World 120 coming up next.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Wanted the best, you got him for a rest. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
Beyond the Lights, Road to Charlotte is out now. Join Justin and Quentin Haley in a 4-part documentary series as they take on the famed dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. All episodes are available now, and you can visit youtube.com/limeademedia to start watching today. Welcome back to the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway for coverage of the World 120, the first playoff race in Season 2 of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. Kenneth Bueno to join you up atop the broadcast booth, and your current leader is Josh Patterson in the 02. Has cycled back. He was the earliest to pit out of everybody in the field, and will have the up front spot for now by 5 seconds over Garrett White in the 26, Austin Duran to lock up your current top 3. And while under break, you saw on the left side of your screen Joe Berge, Jay Mulder, all those drivers who had stayed out up front, coming in for pit road around halfway. All of those guys were able to extend it that far, and now we question the longevity of the 02 of Patterson as he pitted way earlier. He pitted around lap 32 in this race, so he may have to pit at least one more time before this race is all said and done, unless he can save that much fuel. Decided for the undercut strategy, it's roughly a 7-lap difference between himself and Garrett White, so we should see that 26, if he saves his equipment, be able to catch up to that Toyota Supra and make it a challenge for the race lead. We haven't seen a lot of pressure put on Garrett White tonight. Of course, has been one of the fastest, if not the fastest cars here from Charlotte Motor Speedway thus far. But the driver behind him might just be a formidable threat in the form of Austin Duran in the 55. We've seen him close up on many positions inside the top 5, made his way into second, and has been closing in on your race leader, what might be net P1. By the time we cycle through, you're right on board with the 55. He holds the very bottom, and Duran, a very good driver at saving his stuff. He's very good at doing that, and especially keeping that right front cool, and that's been the edge that he's had over Garrett White, especially when you get into a long green flag run. 25, 30 laps into a stint, you'll see that 55 start to catch up, and it may just be a problem for the 26, who's at the top of the leaderboard in standings and pretty much inside your top 3, and then you have Austin Duran sitting in P4, not too far behind. So a lot of favoritism, a lot of bragging rights could come out of this race from Charlotte, and we may see exactly what might go on. Some more playoff updates to give you. Here's Sky McGuirk heading for pit road a second time. The 82 is coming for a stop. Not sure whether this is scheduled or not. Remember, we saw the replay there at contact with Brandon Sampson, and McGuirk's night has gone from bad to worse. As he's going to make this stop, he'll fall a lap down, and he will join Ryan Zabot and many others as drivers 1 lap down or more. Also, to know drivers that are a lap down, playoff driver James Bomar in the 44. We saw him in trouble earlier on in tonight's race, hitting the outside wall, and he is up to 19th. He is the lucky dog spot. If we get a yellow inside 30 laps to go, he gets passed by the 55 of Austin Duran right there entering turn 3. So a lot of single file racing. Might have one of our closest battles inside the top 6. This is Caden Wright from the 97, Timmy Spatz in the 54. It sort of feels like we have seen these drivers around each other all night long up until this point. And the 97 of Caden Wright still holding off that 54. I believe Paul Granado not too far away in the background, so there could be some nice battling between these 3 cars before it's all said and done. Dimitri Mundros as well. He pitted rather late, pitted 10 laps ago, and now he is just finding his way inside the top 10 for the moment. He'll try to look for 8th on the number 8 car, and we'll track that progress as it moves forward. Of course, Mundros suffering by that penalty at Myrtle Beach 1 week ago. 3 points beneath the cut line going into this evening's event. So the gap has closed considerably. Garrett White inside 0.3 of a second to Josh Patterson, your race leader. Of course, tire difference going to be so important here at a track like Charlotte Motor Speedway, where it really rips the tires apart. Patterson missing the corner in 3 and 4. White, most importantly, having to check up in the middle of the apex. That's going to bring in Duran a little bit. He's roughly half a second behind these guys, and here comes Garrett White for the inside in the race lead. He'll slide at the track, might hurt his right front. That could give the opportunity at Austin Duran to get into striking distance. He has to get around Patterson before he does any of that. Of course, that 55 has been fast all night long, and with the hiccup beneath the 02 of Patterson, it might be one here for Doron exiting turn 4, or quite possibly the worst part of the track to get around a race car. And Doron clears his way into second. He'll try to catch up to White, and even then, still faster by 6/100ths of a second. 31.765 for Austin Doron in the 55, and White's with a 31.821. As they approach lap traffic for the first time this evening. That is also going to be big. We'll talk about that most notably at the short tracks. I think Bristol is really where you're going to see that shine more than others. And maybe Martinsville as well, a very short track to follow in the middle of the round of 9. You'll see lap traffic become a very big factor. It'll slow cars down, it'll force drivers to check up, and it could pack things up, create somewhat of a group of drivers inside top 3, top 4, maybe inside your top 10 like we see with guys like Dimitri Mundros and with guys like Caden Rife and Timmy Spatz, all those guys. If they get around lap traffic, they end up slowing each other down. They might end up in a battle for position before they even know it. And that's going to be very important going into Bristol next week because it's a very tricky round. We have this track relatively normal in Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it's been normal so far apart from that crash at around lap 4 in this race. But then you have Bristol, a short track where pretty much anything can happen. You can get immediately taken out of the race. Things cannot go your way in an instant, and you could immediately have yourself a points deficit going into the final race. And the final race of that round of 14, as Josh Patterson comes in for a second time to try and top off on fuel, get some Goodyear Eagles while he's at it, is Pocono, the tricky triangle, third and final race of the first round. So you have two very interesting tracks after a rather normal one. But then it gets even worse when you step into the round of 9. You start at Chicagoland, a very rough, very abrasive 1.5-mile track that may be even worse to drive in difficulty than this Charlotte Motor Speedway that we're seeing this evening. Then you have Talladega, an unpredictable race. Their draft is important. Pack racing is at an all-time high. Big ones are probably inevitable. And then you have Martinsville, classic short track temper where damage is also inevitable and cautions might be as well. So a lot of oddball tracks, a lot of curveballs that will be thrown at this playoff field. And if you're any one of these guys bearing the orange banner, the orange splitter, the orange spoiler in tonight's race, best believe you're going to try your best to do whatever you can to keep yourself above the cut line, have yourself some momentum going into the next couple of races. Dimitri Mundros, we saw him in P9 as he was shuffling through the order. He has since moved up to P3, so Mundros making a nice charge to the front. Again, one of the better drivers at these 1.5-mile tracks, and he settles behind Austin Doron and Garrett White. Still roughly a couple of seconds beneath those guys, but Mundros at this point entering 10, 20 laps to go. Looks like he might be in a great spot. Here's some playoff drivers inside your top 7. Remember Caden Rife and Timmy Spatz, we looked at them not too long ago. Looks like they have been inseparable for this second half of the event. Very even on lap time. Spatz faster that time around though. That's Henry Clappert, one of the lap cars in this field. 23rd on the racetrack, 9 laps down, looking to go around. I think he's on fresh tires. And with that call by Josh Patterson, that drops him to 17th, 1 lap down. So it looks like your defending champion might have miscued on that pit road entry. Tried to get that undercut, and it looks like it did not work, and it may just appear that the drivers up in the front can make it all the way to the end with 19 laps remaining when we cross that stripe in this World 120. Here's a look at a battle inside your top 5. Paul Granada, Gino Mero. Mero falling back to P6. Granada going to be able to swoop his way by. So this Supra on a lot of progressive movement up at the front. Next car in line, Clayton Ramsden. Remember, these are points that are awarded to the playoff drivers, and you've got non-playoff competition. We'll have this happen. They'll try and get their way in the middle of the top 10. They'll try to run for a win because that's what they're going for, and they could ultimately play a factor in the playoff fight, especially when everybody comes into this race mostly on a level playing field in points. A lot of them at 1,000, 1,001, 1,003. There's not many points separating these guys in this first race of the first round. And so any pass like that, Granada on Mero, is going to matter if you're guys like Clayton Ramsden or guys like Garrett White or guys like Austin Doron or Dimitri Mundros. Any of those moves can matter. And it looks like Mero actually is going to head for pit road. So a second driver coming in. I believe Mero did pit shortly after Josh Patterson did, so it's 17 laps to go. Your playoff points leader is going to come in this time by, and this is going to be huge on the strategy. Patterson looking to unlap himself inside your top 15. Patterson running a very special throwback car to his first ever race car with the white flames and the blue background. He used to be a #1, of course, sporting the 02 this evening. Patterson on the fresh rubber going to go by, but at what cost? Going to be in P15. He'll try to catch Brandon Sampson, who's roughly 2 seconds in front of him. Trying to catch up as it looks like Garrett White is going to hit pit road. Austin Dorn to follow there side by side for the race lead coming into the pit lane with 16 laps to go. An unbelievable entry by the 55. And they will be as even as can be heading for their pit stalls. So an interesting call here will shuffle Dimitri Munoz to the race lead, and it obviously is an interesting call in the case that these guys made it roughly 40 laps on their stint. They did have some time to save under that first yellow, so that may have just been the magic difference in this group. But now we pose the question, can guys like Munoz, can guys like Paul Granata stay out as long as they can and lead this race to the finish? And there's a look at the side-by-side battle just in front of your leader. They're 3 wide for a moment entering turn 3. There's the tire difference. Munoz slides way up the track. That's going to lose him a lot of time to Clayton Ramstead, roughly 1.9 seconds back. And this should be the battle for net P1 if everybody else comes in. But obviously that's the big question. Looks like Kanan Rife has found his way on a pit road, so Timmy Spat's not going to join him in his endeavors. And the Seattle Mariners car going to look for open C on pit road. There's Brandon Sampson right behind him in the 96. He finally comes in for service. That brings in 12 cars on the lead lap. James Bomar, the lucky dog, if we get a caution flag. Connor Trafari, the last one holding up a lead lap spot in P12. And we still focus on your race leader. He tries his dearest to stay out in front with 13 laps remaining in the World 120. Oh, and a lot of drama around some lap cars. That's Sampson in the middle. Another car on the very outside. And that could have easily been disastrous. That was the 021 of Brandon Stewart. We talked about how big of a factor lap traffic can play. That's Brayson Collins on the outside. And Duran whips the car loose at a turn 4. He'll keep it straight, but that could have been disastrous. Both of them running 8th and 9th. And there's Dimitri Munoz, roughly on the other side of the racetrack. Clayton Ramstead, the only other playoff driver inside your top 3. And Joe Berger, the next one in line in P5. And for Munoz, it has been an absolute stellar season apart from that penalty at Myrtle Beach. 2 wins on the calendar, 1 at Phoenix, and then 1 at Las Vegas, completing a 2-in-a-row effort, and then victoryless since. Or victoryless since, winless since. And so the 60 trying to play the cards right. Inside 10 laps to go. As White and Duran have struggled to maintain a couple of seconds in front. Chase Marsden in the 89. But apart from that, if nobody else pits, this race might be over for 2 of the most dominant drivers in this field. Dimitri Munoz going to stay out another lap for 10 laps to go. And keep in mind, we've seen drivers catch up from 2.1 seconds back before. Ramstead with a faster lap as they cross the stripe. 32.529. Munoz with a 32.544. And so Ramstead might also be in contention if Munoz struggles late in this race. And still a lot of time left. Paul Granata a couple of seconds back in P3. Looks like Ramstead with a rather slow exit to the corner. Munoz crosses the line. 32.376 for Ramstead. 32.446. So it looks like the lead might just be growing after all for the driver of the 60. As Doran and White both get around playoff competition, it looks like their call to hit at this stage of the race might not just be enough. And you have to wonder how much of a heartbreak that is. Of course, still going to be a great finish for both Doran and White. Should keep them above the cut line. But if they end up in a situation where they can't win this race because of this call and this call alone, it is definitely going to hurt considering they've been the fastest cars up to this point. Munoz will lead them out of turn 4 once he gets there for 7 laps to go from the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. And this would be, I believe, a career best for Clayton Ramstead if he holds on to second. Paul Granada might be his best finish of the year if he holds on to a top 3. Car around, it's Brendan Stewart, and the caution is out for the second time tonight with 6 laps to go. Stewart in some lap traffic drama. He goes for a spin at the exit of turn 4. We'll see how it all happened, whether he had some help or whether this was just a solo car incident. He grabs the apron in turn 3. That's Clayton Ramstead heading for the pit lane, and the 021 loses the race car, overcorrects. Timmy Spatz, I believe that was a driver that went by, almost picked up some damage there. That's Ramstead heading for pit road indeed. That is Timmy Spatz behind the 021. And wow. And this might cost Ramstead a lap. As he was heading for the pit lane, it was closing as soon as he was coming in. And this is going to hurt for the driver of the 21. We'll see exactly what happened on board with the number 54. This is Timmy Spatz in his Chevrolet Camaro. He'll see the car go sideways. And just tried his best to get around it. I think escaped with minimal damage, if not any. The 54 will continue to see another lap. As he is currently in 11th right now, and your leaders will make a pivotal call. We saw Garrett White and Austin Doran headed for the pit lane, and now it's a question of, are you willing to pit to get fresh tires? I think the answer might just be yes, but it might be yes only for the 60. Munoz seeing all by himself. In terms of the playoff field, make it 2 cars. Joe Berge, the other one in. Paul Granada, Jay Mulder, non-playoff drivers. And that'll shuffle the lead to Josh Patterson in the O2 machine. That's Connor Trafari staying out. He's going to get the wave around here along with James Bomar. I think Bomar finally getting the lucky dog. He's going to be on the lead lap. And that'll move Garrett White and Austin Doran to second. There's Munoz finally coming out of the pit stall, and he's going to be 5th with a restart inside 4 laps to go. Wow. An interesting call by your race leader. And now it may push him behind the 8 ball. Of course, P5, not necessarily the worst spot to be in. Only 4 spots on fresh tires in the field, and fresh tires by a lot. Chase Marsden, who's staying out as long as he doesn't pit. He's got 36 laps old tires, and then everybody else in front roughly 19 to 11. Patterson has the worst out of your top 3 at 19, the other 2 at 11. We'll see if Marsden ends up second-guessing his call if he comes down for pit road. A lot of lap cars got trapped in this as well. They're all going to get the wave around, including James Bomar, like we mentioned in the 44. And so this will bring us a restart inside 4 laps to go, maybe 3 laps to go. I think this may be an organic green-white checkered here from Charlotte. So we may just have our sort of attempt at overtime without officially going to overtime. We'll see if the lights are out on the iRacing official pace car. Looks like for now, answer is no, so we'll stay. But at the pace car for now, and Josh Patterson has a little more time to think about what he's going to do defensively. I think some bit of contact right in front of him. That was DJ Powell. Bit of drama there. Not sure if he made a contact. Actually got into James Bomar. So some drama here, or maybe Powell just making a mistake. He goes under the apron. Oh, just slides sideways and gets into Bomar. That is exactly not what Bomar wanted to have happen. Some extra damage on the left front now. And a bit of drama there. A slight mistake by Powell. I guess the field trying to resolve the issues here. If we do stay like this, though, it could be an organic restart. Or if we extend a caution, it might also just be a proper green-white checkered finish to the end. Patterson coming into this race, P3 in the standings, and 1,004 points, a season that he really put together near the end. It looked like the first half full of struggles, full of bad luck, and that second half came around, then finally got a win on his back at Charlotte Dirt. Now his 2 career wins that have come on dirt tracks. He's looking directly at a possibility for his first on an oval that's not made out of dirt, but made out of asphalt. And we'll have the Wonder Green signal from the iRacing official pace truck, which means we're going green with 2 laps remaining in the World 120. So an organic green-white checkered start. Josh Patterson up at the helm of the field. Garrett White in second row, number 1. Austin Doran, Chase Marsden, third and fourth. Dimitri Mundros on the freshest tires of the field. He'll line up the top 5. Then Joe Berge, Paul Granata, Jay Mulder, Clayton Ramstead, and the number 71 of Gino Merrill to round out your top 10. And remember the last time we were at a 1.5 miler, or at least a while back, was Homestead of Miami. We had a situation like this. Top handful of drivers stayed out. A lot of the drivers in the mid-pack went in for tires, and it only took them 2 laps to catch up to the front and run for the win. We'll see if they leave these 4 up in the dust, or whether these guys are able to play good enough defense. All of these playoff drivers looking for what could be an entrance into the next round. Pace truck is down. Early start by Josh Patterson. We're green with 2 laps to go. Car to the outside wall early. That reduces us into 3. That is Chase Marsden, who gets into trouble on 36-lap-old tires. And there goes Dimitri Mundros with Paul Granata ahead of steam on the back straightaway. Looking for the white flag, this time by 3 wide for the race lead in turn 4. That's Austin Doran and Garrett White going by. Mundros looking to the inside, white flag from Charlotte. An unbelievable move by the 55 and the 26. Mundros trying to punt his way through in turns 1 and 2. Side by side for the lead still between the 55 and the 26. Here comes Mundros looking for 3 wide in turn 3. Final time, they make contact. Mundros gets into White. Final time out of turn 4. Granada with a huge 10, and Garrett White survives the 2-lap chaotic finish to win the World 120. They are wrecking across the start-finish line. Up and over goes Joe Berge. But Garrett White survives the madness and wins from Charlotte. Second straight win at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for Garrett White. Second straight win in a row this season. And that's a huge slam by Chase Marsden that's going to ruin the burnout lap, but still, Garrett White in the 26 is victorious again. His 3rd win of the campaign, his 2nd at a 1.5 mile track. And he is able to celebrate for now in a chaotic set of laps from Charlotte. So Garrett White will burn it down. He'll celebrate. We'll take a look at your full unofficial results here from Concord, North Carolina. It is the 26 of Garrett White. Winner once again. Josh Patterson to follow suit in P2. Austin Doran to follow in P3. And Doran almost about got turned near the end of this race. Jay Mulder, the Canadian, ends up in P4. Clayton Ramstead, despite pitting right before the caution came out inside the final 6 laps of the race, he rebounds for P5. So a great finish for Clayton Ramstead. Should give him some solid points. Joe Berge ends up 6th. Gino Merrill in 7th. Timmy Spatz in 8th. Caden Reif in 9th. And Dimitri Mundros to round out your top 10. Make that all but one driver inside your top 10 running for the playoffs. Jay Mulder not running for a title. Everybody else is. An unbelievable top 10 from this race after 80 laps complete. Paul Granada made that final send on Mundros in the final corner. It results in an 11th place finish. Connor Trafari to come home in 12th. Chase Marsden is 13th at the start-finish line. He's the first car one lap down. Logan Suyu will be 14th. 15th will go to Brandon Sampson in the 96th. Ryan Martin to follow suit in 16th. Kyle Turczak in the number 893 will be 17th at the start-finish line. A night to forget for James Bomar and Sky McGuirk. Both of those playoff drivers come home 18th and 19th. They may be below the cut line going into Bristol 1 week from tonight. Brady Cox ends up as the last driver inside your top 20, 2 laps down. DJ Powell, 21st. Henry Clapper, 22nd. Both of them 3 and 10 laps down, respectively. Cameron McCone, 13 laps down in 23rd. 24th to Brandon Stewart, who caused that final caution out of turn 4. Brayson Collins, also a night to forget as a playoff driver. He is 25th, 17 laps down. Ryan Zabot, Seth Warren, Hayes Booth, Tristan Rivers, and Parker White complete their top 30. Final 3 drivers in our field include TJ Lair, Brady Wallerman, and unfortunately, John Canizaro did not make the green flag. I believe he told us in the chat prior to the green flag dropping that he was going to be able to make at least the first part, but did not start. He ends up 81 laps down, did not make the green flag. So it'll be our time to head to victory lane and talk with a driver who ends up victorious overall. Garrett White in the number 26, his 3rd win of the season, 2nd straight at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and 2nd in a row after winning at Myrtle Beach not too long ago. Garrett, just first of all, walk us through those final laps. You were on older tires, Mundros, Granada, trying to puncture your battle with Austin Drawn. What did you see out of the front windshield?
Sure, what a race. Yeah, starting on the outside on that restart, I knew Josh was going to try to time it right. And then Austin got beside me and passed me. And then I was like, the people behind me, Dimitri was coming on strong. So in 3 and 4, we went 3 wide, and I just never lifted. You know, it's the green-white checkered. You have to go for it, and was able to see the other side. And then in the last corner, luckily, my teammate Dimitri was giving me a little bit of a push down the back straightaway on the last lap. And then he kind of got into me a little bit there and got us a little loose, but we were able to hang on to it. It was just, it was a crazy race there towards the end.
Definitely a crazy one for sure. And you and Austin Doran, some of the fastest cars all night long. You led a bunch of laps in this race, Garrett, up at the front, especially in that first half. Was there any concerns around the point where you and Austin had to come down pit road inside the final 20?
Yeah, we were kind of. I think Austin was in the same boat, but we were kind of dealing with 2 different strategies. We had Josh Patterson pitting early, and trying to get the undercut, and then we had Dimitri and them trying to stay out. And I think they were trying to make it on fuel before we had that caution, and then they did the overcut and they were towards the end. But it was just when that caution came out, I was a little my heart kind of sunk in a little bit. I was like, man, we were so fast, and somehow we're gonna lose it, but. It was just crazy end, and just glad to get it done.
A wild ending here from Concord, North Carolina, but you take your 7th career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series win. You're starting to put a buffer for the all-time wins leader. You're definitely putting yourself in your own league, but this win, of course, in the context of the playoffs, how much does it mean to you going into Bristol?
Oh, it means a ton. To go ahead and get a win in the playoffs is obviously a good thing, and then kind of what we did last year, kind of going on a little bit of a run now. And then Bristol, we won there last year too. So I think it's exciting times to be in the whiteout stable right now. But, moving forward, we're just going to try to keep getting those victories.
I was about to say Bristol next week. You're the defending winner there too. So I think a little bit of pressure behind the wheel of the 26 next week by. But Garrett, an unbelievable job here from Charlotte Motor Speedway in this World 120. Before we let you go, anybody else you'd like to give a shout out to or thank?
Yeah, I want to thank the Whiteout Sim Racing boys. And then I've kind of forgot, and I apologize for it, but I want to thank Jay Mulder for creating paint schemes for me. Definitely couldn't do it without him, so wanted to say a special thanks to him because he was in the race today. But on to Bristol.
The last great Coliseum coming up next in the playoffs. Garrett, on behalf of our entire team on the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on this win in the World 120. Best of luck in the rest of the playoffs. Well, congratulations again. We'll see you at Bristol.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So Garrett White holds off the brigade, ends up in the top spot. He takes his 3rd career win of the season, rather 7th career overall. And so what an unbelievable finish. A driver who comes home in second, a driver who was also on alternative strategy. The 0-2 of Josh Patterson, your defending series champion from one campaign ago. And Josh, I got to ask you about that strategy. You pitted earlier than everybody else in the field. You had to pit earlier than everybody else for the second time. What went behind that early call?
First off, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, sorry, yeah, I was lagging a bit. I don't know, I figured that on that first run, I was a couple laps short. I think I would have only made it to 37. So I was like, you know what, I'll just, hard commit to the two-stop. So I figured, I'll stop early once, and then kind of my strategy, I just split the second half. I was up at 30, I think. So I split it right at 55. I think everyone else was staying out to like 65, 70, I was expecting. So it was definitely different. I don't think I would have been able to hold the gap over Garrett if it went green, and I'm not sure if the other, I think 5 guys would have made it on fuel. But I mean, hey, it ended up working out, and we stuck away with one here.
Able to grab this P2 effort, and of course you coming in as a driver inside the top 3 in the point standings for this first race. Did you feel any sort of pressure to do well here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, or did you just feel it out for these 80 laps?
I wouldn't really say I felt a ton of pressure coming in. I felt like, coming in, I was on some pretty good momentum, and then, to grab the second place in these last 5 races, kind of just to continue that streak. I think I should be able to roll pretty easily into the next round, so kind of just focused on getting through these rounds with good races. But then, I came in, got some practice, saw I was pretty decent on pace, and felt like I could have a good race, and it just kind of worked out in our favor tonight. Unfortunately, didn't get the win, but second, I can never complain about it.
A consistent finish regardless, and that should put you in a good spot heading for Bristol Motor Speedway in 1 week time. Josh, before we let you go on our coverage on the KBueno Racing Network for second place, anybody you'd like to thank in particular for this run?
Yeah, I got to thank everybody at Dynamo Racing, powered by Limeade Media, those 2 individual companies. I got to thank Belfort Property Restoration, Vulture Racing Engines, Patriot Clutches, the Keystone Corner, Limeade Media, I already did that, EVC Automotive, 7-4 Sports Update, URP, and everyone else who helps me out week to week. I got to thank you for coming out and broadcasting tonight, racing for the lead, and everyone else for coming on track tonight and giving us news.
We certainly appreciate the time as always, Josh. Congratulations on the second place finish in the World 120. Wishing you the best of luck for the rest of the playoffs, most importantly for Bristol in 1 week time.
Thanks a lot, Kenneth. See you there.
The last great Coliseum awaiting the 0-2, Josh Patterson with a second place finish here from Charlotte. We'll talk to the driver who ends up in third. A miraculous save, by the way, and a 3-wide move with 2 laps to go with Dimitri Mundros and the entire gang in it. Austin Doran coming home in P3. And Austin, I think you, apart from Garrett White, one of the fastest cars, no doubt, all night long. You were in that strategy with him all the way to the end. What did you have in mind heading for that final restart?
Oh, it's great to see you, Kenneth. Yeah, I mean, the restart, I knew Josh was going to try to jump it, but I didn't think he would go that early. So I was kind of surprised by that. And then, yeah, me and Garrett were actually really even on the restart, but I was able to get the better jump and get ahead of him. But I knew I had to get by Josh as quick as possible. So I tried going around the outside. He got a little tight into 3, so that allowed Garrett to get to the bottom, but man, what a battle that was. I mean, I wish me and Garrett could have raced it out, but it's whatever. It was a really good race. Garrett did a really good job, and it was a fun battling him all race.
A very consistent night. I was going to say, it has been a minute, and unfortunately, I wasn't there for Long Beach, so I couldn't give you the interview when you grabbed your first checkered flag of the season this time around. But nonetheless, I mean, this finish here, heading for the playoffs, how important is a finish like this, even though it's not the race win, going into tracks like Bristol and Pocono in this first round?
Oh man, it's huge. Obviously the season hasn't gone quite as planned. I mean, I've ran up front, but just haven't been able to put the races together. So it's finally good to be here in top 3 and have some really good momentum heading into the next couple weeks.
A lot of good headway heading into Bristol Motor Speedway 1 week from tonight. Austin, before we let you go on our coverage for the KBueno Racing Network, anybody in particular you'd like to shout out or thank on the run?
Yeah, I'd like to shout out my team, EC Racing, NASCAR Hotspot, rocking Kevin Harvick throwback tonight. So thank you for being on board. URP, Stapleton Auto Works, SD Graphics, and JJ Central.
We certainly appreciate the time, Austin. Of course, on behalf of our broadcast team, congratulations on the podium finish from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Best of luck at Bristol Motor Speedway next week, and best of luck for the rest of the playoffs.
All right, thank you.
So that is Austin Duran in the 55, short of the race win, but still third place finish, and I don't think any of the playoff drivers up the front can complain. And like we said, everybody but one driver in the top 10 were all playoff drivers running for the championship. So that is going to be huge going into the next race, which is Bristol Motor Speedway. We head to the Last Great Coliseum, and that fast half-mile track in Bristol, Tennessee. You won't want to miss a thing. We go green next week on February 9th, 2023. Of course, you'll find the coverage at the same time on the same place, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the KBueno Racing Network. Then we head to the Tricky Triangle at Pocono in 2 weeks' time for the final race of the round of 14. Will bring us down to 9 drivers for the playoffs when we get to Chicagoland, then Talladega, Martinsville, and then on March 16th, we'll decide a champion amongst the championship 4 in South Florida at Homestead Miami Speedway. So for everyone involved at the World Online Racing Championship, for league owner Brayson Collins, for Charlie Beyer, Keelan Belsha, and Francisco Bacalhau at the KBueno Racing Network, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Saying so long and good night from Charlotte in the World 120. Congratulations to Garrett White, 3rd win of the season, 7th career victory.